Ariane Paris, welcome to Electronic Music Life. Thank you for coming on today's podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've been listening to some of the other episodes and I loved them. Such deep, really inspiring conversations. So it's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot. I came across your work about a year ago through Izzy, who's been recommending me some amazing people. And it seems to be a community that's building around internationally now, where there are coaches that are specifically working in the music industry. And it's great to kind of learn about who's out there. And I came across your work about a year ago, so it's an honor to have you here as well. Why don't you tell us about your background? I'd love to learn about you actually working in the music industry as a booker. Maybe start from there and give us a bit of an introduction.
Yeah. So I worked in the music industry all my life prior to becoming a coach. I worked for a couple of labels in the UK, and then I worked as a booker for a huge venue in Barcelona. It was a 5,000 capacity club. And I booked the electronic rooms there. So booking emerging acts as well as headline acts. And it was a real privilege to be able to book all these up-and-coming artists and give them a chance to play in Barcelona.
Yeah. And how long were you doing that for?
I was there for 9 years.
Wow. Right on. And so, you moved into this space as I guess a next phase for you, and you found some kind of calling to be involved in sort of still working with music and but offering a different kind of service. So why don't you tell us a bit about Olympia Coaching and when that all started for you?
Yeah. So as I was still working as a booker, I also had a spiritual awakening and I started to become super passionate about personal development. And that started to become a very strong passion for me. And so what happened was, in my last few years of working as a booker, I had a big professional crisis. It really felt like this dark night of the soul that was dragging on. Because what happened was I'd lost my love for my job as a booker, and I'd completely lost my sense of meaning and purpose. And that is quite painful. Like for me, I know I cannot live without passion and without doing something that is purposeful. So, I was going to work feeling super alienated, feeling completely disconnected. And so I had this strong calling to help others, and more specifically help the people from this industry that I love, and help artists in a more direct way. But I felt really stuck. I felt really boxed in my role as a booker, and I didn't know how I could work in the personal development space, because it's not like you can apply for a job. And at the time, I had no role models, and it didn't occur to me that I had to become an entrepreneur. So I felt really, really lost for a few years, really deeply unhappy and disconnected. And so I had this calling. And so what I did was I hired my first coach that helped me take the first baby steps to get clearer on what I could be doing, and to address my fears. And this is when I started to research coaching trainings and so on. And that's how I started my journey. And I really wanted to share, like, as I was growing, like walking on this path of spirituality and personal development, I really wanted to share what I was learning with other people. And I feel, artists also, I really admire artists for that, because they also have this calling to follow their artistic path and vision. And as we know, this kind of paths are the paths less traveled. So it takes a lot of courage and also an ability to actually listen to what your soul is calling you to do.
Yeah. So how long? Sorry, go on.
Sorry. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I was just going to say, how long did it take? Like from the moment you kind of realized, you said that it took some time, but to transition into this new role and this new profession, how long would you say that duration took for you to kind of like, dive in?
Yeah. So it took, I think, a couple of years, maybe two years, where I felt really powerless and really stuck. And, for some reason, I really, I hadn't even heard of coaching at that point. That's the thing. I hadn't heard of coaching. I didn't know such a thing existed. So I think it's someone who told me, hey, like, why don't you think of that? And then I met someone else whose friend had a friend who was a coach. And then this is, how I ended up having those sessions with her. And that's what helped me get unstuck. And then as soon as I had those sessions, then this is when I started to put the wheels into motion and started to research coaching training, got trained, and eventually I quit my job to launch my business. So yeah, it was a really painful situation, but for me, like staying comfortable, because I was also very, very comfortable in my job as a booker. I didn't feel it was meaningful anymore, but I was comfortable. And I know that some people can feel trapped by that zone of comfort. But for me, I know that my staying comfortable was harder than actually following the calling of my soul. So yeah, like if anyone's listening and you find yourself at a crossroads, and if you feel stuck and if you feel unfulfilled and want to find direction, know that there is a way out. And it's just because it happens because we are out of alignment. And I think as we grow and as we evolve as human beings, it makes complete sense that our career grows and evolves alongside us. So, I know what it's like, I know what it feels like, and there's definitely a way to get unstuck and to create this new chapter in your career that is more aligned with who you are today.
And so there wasn't a grace period or a gap where you weren't working in as a booker. It was, you got to a point where you were going through that process and then sort of cut the ties and then dive straight into the role. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah.
Yes. So I started coaching on the side, on top of my job for a little bit, and then I decided to dive in completely.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And you mentioned like I'd like to hear about like some of the things that you offer some of your clients on finding that. Obviously, not everyone wants to become a coach, but in terms of artists in the music industry, what are some of the things that you could do to help them that will help them get unstuck or find that passion and get realigned again with their music career? What are some of the things that you offer?
Yeah, so for music professionals, this is the people who work in the music industry. This is the thing that I can help them with is find that clarity about what they want to do next, find direction. And I do that by helping them go inwards. So instead of just looking outwards and just applying to a bunch of jobs, you really want to take that time to really go inwards and understand what is truly important to you. What do you value? What is your definition of success? What are you trying to achieve? What vision do you have of your life in a holistic way? Because for a lot of people, let's say work-life balance is important. I worked with a client who wasn't happy in his job and he started to look at other possibilities. And then when we got clear on what was truly important to him and work-life balance was a big thing, then he started to cross things off the list, because even though those jobs sounded cool and maybe his younger self would have seen himself doing that at the point where he was at in his that season of his life, that's not things he wanted anymore, actually. And so that's for the music professionals. And then for the artists these days really are creative entrepreneurs, especially independent artists. And they have to wear a multitude of hats. So it's quite similar to the entrepreneurial journey, which I'm on as well at the same time as a coach and entrepreneur. So I know that for me, it certainly hasn't been a walk in the park. You know, I feel like these types of journeys really are some of the biggest personal growth journeys that we can ever have, because I know that in my case, a lot of my fears and insecurities that I didn't even know I had came up, and you have to do things that are uncomfortable and scary. You have to put yourself out there and things like that. So for my artist clients, what I help them with is, first of all, get super clear on the vision that they have for themselves and for their careers and where they want to go, and, you know, what are their goals, and then break that down into some concrete, tangible steps and an action plan. Because for a lot of creatives who have a very developed right-hand side of the brain, so they're very creative, they have maybe this big vision, but it's harder for them to bring that down to something that is more structured and knowing what to do and what are the action steps. So I help them with that, and also staying consistent and staying disciplined, you know, having some sort of structure and routine, which again, I find that a lot of creatives struggle with that. And also when you work on your own and you don't have a team and you don't have a boss and you're not accountable to anyone, then it's very easy to procrastinate. And so that it's really good to have someone in your corner that can help you stay focused, stay consistent, stay accountable, and of course then also overcome everything that's holding you back, because we all have those blocks and those fears and the inner critic that's always talking in one corner of our head. And all that stuff is holding us back. It's essentially self-sabotage. So, I help them overcome as well, really overcome all these mindset blocks that they may have, so that they can feel more confident and promote themselves and put themselves out there with more ease.
Great. So it sounds like you help them create some kind of inventory of what they want to create, and also identifying a bit about who they are as well in the current state, and then unpacking that and sort of working out, as you mentioned, a plan. What are some of the things that you do to help them with embodying the new vision and the accountability side of things? Yeah, what does that look like in your practice?
So I work with a variety of tools. With embedding the new vision, what works quite well are visualizations, so creative visualizations that helps the client really imagine what that's going to be like, and get into the body, like you mentioned, I think embodiment, and that's really, really important to get into that embodiment piece, because we want to, in order to get to that vision, we need to essentially become the version of ourselves that is already living the vision. So we need to vibrate at a different frequency and change our mindset. So, it's not just about having the vision. It's also about understanding, who do I need to become to be that person that lives that vision, that has this as a reality. So I need to probably change my beliefs. I need to change my thoughts. I need to change how I talk about myself, my self-talk, my inner dialogue. I need to step up in a bigger way and take bold action and do things that are a bit uncomfortable and scary. So yeah, help them really have the vision and then have the personal transformation, because this is the beauty about coaching and this is the real magic. It's great to have those goals and these big things that we want to achieve, and that's perfect, right? Like, because that's what drives us. We want to achieve something. Artists want to be able to, play those bigger shows and have a team that supports them and have a bigger audience and all of that. But first of all, also, it's also helping them remember what is their purpose. What is the thing that drives them the most? What is the purpose beyond all of that? Because I think that's the really powerful bit as well. Like, what is your why? What are you trying to change in the world, or what are you aiming for people to experience as they listen to your music? And then, so helping the clients then have that transformation. This is the magic of coaching. It's not just about achieving the goals, which is great. It's also about becoming a new version of yourself that's closer to your potential. It's a constant unfolding and letting go of the parts of you that don't serve you anymore, and a constant inner transformation to get closer to your highest potential. Yeah.
I can see it in your face that you love doing this. You love doing this work, and I can sense your passion behind doing this work. Did you ever see yourself this would be like something that you wanted to do? Like, now that you're doing it, does it kind of make sense to you that why this has kind of led you to this path?
Yeah, totally. It's like, I feel like my mission in this lifetime, at least for now, like, who knows what, in 20 years, I mean, I don't know if I'll still be working 20 years, but for now, I really feel my mission is to contribute by helping others transform and live their dreams and follow their calling. And I feel we all come here with a specific mission. And I also feel that this mission, when it's really aligned, it's something that we need. So we're helping others and helping ourselves at the same time. So it's like a beautiful co-creative process. And, like in the pyramid of needs, the highest need after the needs for survival have been covered, and the needs for connection and love and belonging have been met as well. The highest need then is self-actualization, and self-actualization really is embodying more of your potential, like really fulfilling your purpose and your mission, and contributing to the world in your own unique way. So for artists, it's of course self-expressing and sharing a message and bringing people to a state of them being able to feel their emotions, or a cathartic state, or whatever that may be. And for me, for sure, it's the way I want to contribute is to help empower others and help them realize their biggest dreams.
And obviously, like, music has been a big part of your life as well, and a passion, and you kind of merged these two together. And it's very similar to my kind of like realizing, I guess I've kind of always been a bit of a coach, but didn't realize I was doing it, and I even, I mean, the title coaching, I mean, I use it because it's a title that's being more widely accepted and used to, I guess, define a role or a position of doing it. And it's becoming obviously a huge industry now. Not only like and I'm beginning to see that it's becoming more accepted and within and required in the music industry and dance music. I mean, these sort of things weren't available to the DJs of the 90s. They didn't have this kind of thing available. And I guess the coaching world really took off in America 20 years ago, and now it's kind of, filtering through the rest of the world. And I think it's become a bigger industry, particularly after COVID as well. It's becoming more accepted, and how have you found? Because your journey started before COVID, like becoming a coach. Yeah, very interesting. And so how have you found? Have you found a more of a demand after COVID?
So COVID obviously has kind of put a stop on a lot of things for a lot of us, because people were maybe, weren't sure what was going to happen, and there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear and all of that. But I think what you said is in America, it's a lot more well known. This profession is more well known, and people are more used to get support. I find that North American people are very good at getting support. And I think in Europe, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in Europe, it's still a bit slow and people are less familiar with it. And, maybe there's still a little bit of taboo about it as well, about asking for help and receiving help. So I'm excited to where this is going to go. And I would love to see coaching more included in the industry itself, in the services and the support that are offered to artists and music professionals within organizations, and have that as part of the package that they give to the staff or to the artists, to help them achieve better results,
Yeah, there are. I've come across an organization that actually does that, where they help in the corporate world find the right coaches to enhance their staff, and so it's becoming more and more even in big corporate organizations, they see the value in getting that support to unpack what's, resisting and what's, and get the best performance from their staff. And it just makes a lot of sense that this is, and keeping that momentum, because we all fall down, even when we work out and become aware of the things that are preventing us. But to make that subcortical to cortical and shift, and then it becomes more of a permanent change. It's not just like a one-time, it's a repetition, and like going to the gym, it's making the reps, and doing the consistency. And do you find that difficult to communicate with clients, that process, that's something that, it's not just part of a sales pitch so that you can, have them work with you forever. There's obviously there is a requirement for that,
Yeah, I really truly believe, for myself at least, I think inner work is something that I'm going to do my entire life. There's no end to working on yourself. There's always going to be more layers of things to uncover and get deeper and up level more and more and grow. I think, for me at least, I think this is what's the purpose of my soul being here, is really to grow and to evolve. And there's no end to that. So So of course, with clients, the point is I want to empower my clients. You really don't want to create this sense of dependency where they think they need you, because they don't, right? I'm just here at their service to help them reflect, help them understand themselves, and give them the tools that they can use after we stop working together, and that the tools that they can come back to use whenever they have an issue or struggling with something. Because, the life is there are struggles in life. We can't escape that. And, as much as I work on myself, that doesn't mean that life is not going to throw difficulties at me, but I'm going to be better equipped to deal with them. But I always tell my clients, even before we start working together, I tell them, this is a process. There's no magic solution. There's no quick fix. And I know in a lot of the music industry, there's a lot of organizations and people who sell the strategies. So how to grow your social media, how to grow your fan base, blah, blah, blah. So all these things are great. This knowledge is important. But quite a lot of it really sounds like the magic formula to success. And I personally don't believe in any magic formulas to success. And also what I believe is that it's great to have the strategies, but if you don't do the inner work, then the strategies will not work for you, because you're not going to implement them. You're going to fall off track. You're not going to show up, because if you have like all these blocks and this resistance, then knowing all the strategies won't help you actually fully utilize them. So I think you need to have both. You need to have the external strategies, and you need to do the inner work. And for the inner work, it's a lifelong process. It's a beautiful journey. It's such a beautiful journey, because it's absolutely a game changer. It will transform your life. It will transform everything in your life. It will transform your career, how you feel, your relationships, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved how you mentioned earlier about, being clear on what your definition of success looks like. That doesn't necessarily mean a bigger bank account. That can be a symptom, and your income can increase, but it is that emotional state that's really the part of feeling good about your career and what your life, just in general. Like it's reaching that place where you're able to love what you're doing and love your life at the same time. It's a win-win. Do you find that, like, because you mentioned now about, like, because I totally agree with you. You can go blue in the face trying to learn all the strategies and how to crack the code on Spotify playlists and, do all these things. But you're absolutely right about and even still, like, not to bring the hope or, but even learning the inner work skills and, say, all the marketing strategies, it still doesn't give you a guarantee. But one thing it can guarantee is some level of development, in personal development, and it may lead to something else. Like, it may not get you on the stage at Glastonbury next year, but something is going to happen if you put in the work.
Right. And the thing with marketing, it's always going to be changing and shifting as technology changes. And, the algorithm is meant to confuse you and to be changing every other day. So you're always going to be, I feel like with technology and with social media, which I feel a lot of us have a kind of a love-hate relationship with it. I hate the idea of having to be a slave to Instagram and to have to do the things Instagram wants me to do. Now you have to do 20 reels a day. Tomorrow is going to be whatever. And I hate that. I hate how they're like controlling even creative expression, how now everything has to be this like really fast, short videos, and it comes from one ear and comes out the other ear, and nothing is integrated. Nothing is deep anymore. I personally hate that. And, you know, I don't want to be a slave to algorithms and Spotify playlists. All that stuff is always going to be changing. So you're always going to have to be on top of things. So the magic formula that worked yesterday is not going to work tomorrow. The only thing that you keep forever and your number one asset is yourself. It's yourself. So as you work on yourself, as you learn to overcome those things that are holding you back, as you learn to step into this up-leveled version of yourself, that will have a ripple effect. And that really is something that is consistent, that is, you know, integrated, and that you will keep with you forever. So that is really a good investment of your time, on top of also learning the marketing. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we do need to know about the technology, and we do need to know about today's marketing strategies. We do need to learn these things. But I think what we're both trying to explain is that with it's trying to find that balance where you're not just so drawn and caught up in those numbers and get that whole thing, because then you're losing yourself. It's finding that balance and finding that sweet spot where you're able to generate creativity and creation and get content out and do those things so that you can express yourself, build your fan base, do all those things, but do it from a place that's not, that comes from the heart, you know, that comes from, and that doesn't mean you don't take action. It's like, it's such a, journey to go on, you know, and to figure and to kind of find, and everyone finds their own way of doing it, you know, and I think it is finding the balance between the two. Do you find that difficult trying to explain that to your clients?
No, because I don't really cover those topics, right? The marketing, I help them take action. Yes, for sure. And like you said, it's not just about, when I say working on yourself, of course, it's not just about sitting there and just reflecting, and there's a lot of action taking in order to overcome, you know, what like our fears and our insecurities. We have to take action. We have to do those things that are out of our comfort zone. You need to promote yourself. You need to put yourself out there. So all these things have to be done. And like you said, you need to learn the marketing and not get caught up, like you said, not get caught up in it, not get caught up in what's the latest way to beat the algorithm, because the algorithm is always gonna beat you, maybe. And so it's taking your power back and also creating your career. I feel each career path is so unique, and what's going to work for someone is not necessarily going to work for you, but what's going to work for you, you know, I think we all have our unique paths that are also depending on our unique strengths and the way you want to put yourself out there as an artist, and how you want to do it. So you get to choose as well. You get to be the one that decides how you want this to go, and do it, like you said, from a place of connected to your heart, of like what feels really truly authentic to me, what feels authentic, genuine, what is a good reflection of how I want to present myself as an artist.
You mentioned at the beginning about a crossroad point where you decided for this career change. Did that have anything to do with the wild animal? the attack from the wild animal?
No, because the wild animal happened afterwards.
So you've had a couple of moments where you've had to make some changes, yeah? Well, they've been significant.
Yeah, I just had. Yeah, I mean, do you want me to tell the story about the wild animal?
Yeah, please.
So yeah, there was a kind of like a funny / pretty intense event that happened where I was nearly killed by this wild animal while I was traveling in India. And I really wanted to share actually the lessons I got from this experience, because the lessons were the gifts. So yeah, I was essentially, I'm not going to tell the whole story because it was very, very eventful. It's one of the stories where reality is a lot stranger than fiction. But essentially, I was walking on this hill in India, and thankfully I was with a friend at the time. Otherwise, if I had been alone, I would have died for sure. And this animal started to walk towards us, and I wasn't smart enough to kind of like walk down the side of the hill and get far, far away, because I come from the city and I love animals, and I was very naive. And I didn't realize, actually, this is a wild animal and you better be careful. And this animal turned out to be what is called a blue bull. So I didn't know it at the time, of course. It was big, but he had the body of the bull, but the head looked more like an antelope with like two very pointy horns. So I thought, oh, he's so cute. So I moved to the side to let him walk by, and I made a big mistake. I think I looked at him in the eyes, which I think was a big mistake now.
Right.
Anyway, so the next thing I know, this animal kind of lifts me under his head and throws me to the ground. And the path was full of these big, big rocks. And he did that 3 times in a row. So each time he threw me to the ground, I didn't even have a chance to get on my feet, and he would grab me again. And each time he was actually poking his horns through my body. So 2 very pointy horns. And I didn't realize that he was poking his horns through my body at the time. All I knew was I was thrown in the air, and something really interesting happened. So as it was happening, I was hyper aware. I knew exactly what was going on, and I knew that it wasn't going well. I was very, very aware of that fact, that it wasn't going well. And I remember being on top of at one point when I was on top of him. So I remember like just being on top of his neck, and his neck was like huge. And I could just feel the sheer force of this animal. It's the body of a bull. And it's one of those moments where you are so humbled in the face of like the sheer force of nature, and you realize you are nothing. I realized in a moment, I am nothing. I am nothing. So as it was happening, and I was aware of that it was very bad, I also felt in complete peace and in complete surrender. So that was very interesting to me. And I think what happened in that moment was that I had a spontaneous and momentary ego death. And I think like my ego was kind of kicked out of my body at that point. So all that was left was my awareness, which is my true self. And that's why I was at peace, because it was a great experience to really have this felt experience of this understanding that the fear of death is only a fear of the ego. And when the ego is dissolving, there's no more fear of death, because it's only the ego that dies. And so you can think of like death as also death of an identity, because let's say you're looking to change roles in the music industry. And I know for a lot of people, your sense of identity is very linked to your role in the music industry, or maybe the death of an old version of yourself. So it's the ego that grasps, right? It really grasps on this sense of identity, but deep down, you have to realize this is not who you are. You are not your job. You are not your body. You're not your thoughts. Yes. You are this unlimited being full of potential. Yes.
Wow.
How amazing. That was the first lesson. I've got a couple of more lessons if you want to hear
Please.
them, if you have time, if there's time.
Yes.
So the second lesson, which was great as well, was so as it was happening, as I said, I was at peace, but I guess also I wanted to leave. I think my soul at that moment decided it's not the time for me to go yet. So I heard myself say, and these words literally came out of my mouth. I didn't think them. So after the second time the animal threw me to the ground, I heard myself say, help me. And I wasn't saying that to my friend who was 20 meters down the hill trying to protect himself, which was obviously the right thing to do because you don't want two people in danger. You want one to be able to help the other eventually. So I just said, help me, but I wasn't screaming like, help me. It wasn't like a dramatic thing. I just said, help me. And after that, the animal grabbed me and threw me to the ground a third time. And after that, the animal stopped, but it didn't leave. It just stood there. It stood there. It was just watching us. And this is when my friend had the chance to come and really grab me, get my bag. And we had actually a chance to leave. And I know, and I know this is going to sound strange for some people, but I swear to you, James, like I know that in that moment, I got help from the unseen realms or whatever it was. I got help, and whatever it was made the animal stop. And I think this is, what saved my life essentially. So, so the lesson here is ask for help, and you will get it.
I love that.
And ask for help. I know it's not easy sometimes to ask for help, and it takes already courage to ask for help, but, ask your network if you need help with anything. Ask your friends, get someone, get a mentor, get a coach, whatever it may be, but ask for help.
Yeah.
And then the last two lessons I'm going to share quickly was what I learned from this experience as well was something that we all know to some level, which is that worrying about the future is a complete waste of time. Because before I went backpacking to this trip, I was due to travel for 6 months in Asia, in China, and I was worrying about all sorts of things like, I was worrying about the bathrooms in train stations in China, things like that, like a lot of, random stuff. And of course, worrying about all these things, the stuff we worry about in the future, 90% of the time is never going to happen. So it's a complete waste of time and energy to worry about them in the first place. And the things that will happen, we cannot predict. I could never have predicted for a wild animal to attack me. I could never have planned or prepared for that. So worrying about the future is completely a waste of time. And the last thing I learned from this was that other people, when you go for your dreams, when you take the chance on your music career and things like that, other people may project their fears and their limitations onto you. And this is what happened to me after the accident. After eventually I got to a hospital, there was a whole thing that happened after that. But anyway, eventually I got to a hospital and I had these 2 big wounds on my body. I had one in my belly, one in my leg. And, of course, my family wanted me to come back home after that, which makes a lot of sense. I totally understand it. But I didn't want to come back, first of all, because I wanted to carry on with my trip. And second of all, because I knew that I was okay. So I just thought I'm going to lay low in India for a month and, let time for my wounds to heal. And I knew I was going to be okay. I felt deep down I was fine, but I had so much pressure from one member of my family who really wanted me to come home and who started to say to me, "You're completely crazy. You're so unconscious. Listen to other people for once. You're putting yourself into danger, blah, blah, blah." And that was really weird because deep down I knew I was fine, but then I started to question myself and I started to doubt myself and start to think, am I really crazy for doing this? So the lesson I'm learning here and that I want to share with you all is, as you go for your dreams, as you focus on your music career, you may have other people around you who love you, who want the best for you, but they may start to project their fears onto you, right? So it's really important to surround yourself with other people who have followed their dreams, who are who are having success in their music career, and protect yourself from people who don't believe in you.
Yeah, that is so great. And I love, because you're right. People, they're it's not that they don't want the best for you, but they are projecting their own unhealed whatever's still lurking for them and what they haven't. I still face that myself, around, and that's why it's important to make sure you have those support and structures so that you know how to, when those things come up, how to walk through and keep walking, and keep moving forward, following that path. It's been such a great conversation. Thank you so much. Are you offering any courses, or is it just one-on-one coaching in your practice at the moment?
At this point, it's one-on-one coaching. I may do some group coaching in the future. And yeah, so there's no courses for now. I really like working one-on-one, and all of my coaching is completely bespoke. So I really like to have this very deep relationship with my clients and create the program and tailor the program to their specific needs.
That's great.
If anyone's,
tell the listeners your website address.
Yeah, so if anyone has resonated with anything that was shared today, I would love to hear from you. You can check out my website. That's olympiacoaching.com, OLYMPIA coaching.com. You can check out my programs for music professionals and artists that will help you find clarity, direction, and find greater success. And I also offer free consultations that you can book through my website as well. So we can get chatting and see how I can help you. And there's a couple of free resources as well that you can check out on my website.
Amazing. Get to it. I think I think what you're doing is great, and I think it's a well needed, especially these days in the music industry as well. I think I wish I knew about it in early parts of my career, and it's been super helpful in recent years in figuring out my next part of my career in the music industry and what I want to be doing. And I think it's a great thing for people to apply and have in their life as well. So thanks again, Ariane Paris. Thank you for joining me on Electronic Music Life. I look forward to seeing what you're doing in the future and staying in touch.
Of course. Thank you so much, James. And also thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.